Hey crafty friends! This is Julia. Thank you so much for joining me on my craft room adventures. Today, I have another holiday card to share with you, and I started out by stamping all of my images from the Snow Friends stamp set by Mama Elephant onto Neenah Classic Crust Solar White cardstock, because I will be coloring them in using Copic markers. For my clouds, the snowman, and the little pile of snowballs, I'm using BG000 and the blender, just to give it a little bit of a blue shade. This is also a card for my Get Cricking on Christmas series, which was initiated by Jen Shirkus, and I will be posting a Christmas or holiday card on every third Thursday of the month of 2020. Hopefully. So just giving them a little bit of a blue hue with the BG000. And using the blender to blend out the color. As you can see here, I'm not using the Copic blender, I'm using the one from Spectrum Noir. It was actually by accident because my Copic gel blender ran out, but I realized that for the blender I really like the bullet nib, especially when you need to correct little mistakes when you colored over the lines, because with a bullet nib you can really push the pigment back much more precisely than with the brush nib, because it's not as flexible. So now I'm moving on to the brown colors for my card. For the broom, I'm using E50s, E50, E51, E53, and E55. I just used the E55 on the handle and the E50, 51, and I believe 53 for the bristles of the broom. And I'm also using those E50 markers for my two little critters. Just keeping the coloring very simple, just going in with my darkest shade where I want my shadows to be, blending that out with the E51, and then the E50 for my lightest shade. As usual, I'm using 2 layers, just going in with the darkest color again, blending that out lightly with the E51 as my midtone, and then with the E50, and I'm also using some R20 on the cheeks. I'm not showing the coloring of my second critter because I colored him exactly the same way as the first, and I also used some E55 to color in the noses. Now I'm moving on to my snowman, and I'm using some V000 and RV63 for the hat and the gloves, or the mittens. And then I'm using the same combination for his scarf, but I'm also adding in the BG000 and the BG01. I recently redid my Copic Chow cap numbers, and I really hope that they'll be better legible on screen. I tried to zoom in a bit more and redid the caps so that you'll be able to read all the numbers properly. Now for the scarves on my two little critters, I'm using B60 and BV00. Now I'm using a panel of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm just going to ink blend it with distressings. Here I'm just using some Stormy Sky to give the bottom part a light blue shade. I really wanted some cooler tones of blue. Now going in with Faded Jeans. And as usual, I'm just blending the colors back and forth. I recently purchased the Waffle Flower Water Media Mat in the mini size because I really hated that my paper was slipping around constantly, and that was supposed to hold the paper really well, and as you can see, it really does. The paper really doesn't move around at all. The one thing I need to hold down a little bit is the mat itself, because it doesn't stick to my craft mat as well. but I don't get as much ink smudges or fingerprint smudges on my projects, and also my fingers stay a little less inky, which is nice. Now I just use Blueprint Sketch, and now I'm going in with Chipped Sapphire. I'm just blending the colors back and forth to create sort of a nighttime bluish sky. Just going back and forth. Now I'm switching to Black Soot to deepen up the blue. I really like the regular distressing Black Soot because it just really dulls and darkens the color, but it's still blue and not actually black, which I like. Just trying to leave the middle pretty light. Darkening up the edges just a little bit more. Here I accidentally went in with there was still a little bit of the darker blue on my brush, but I just blended it out and it turned out fine. Here I'm using the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof Whites, just with a little bit of water, and I'm just splattering that on my background for the look of snow. And then I'm using the Ink on 3 Liquid Pixie Dust, and I'm just splattering that on my background without any water added to it to give more of a sparkle. If you do this, just be aware it needs a bit more time to dry because it's a little bit sticky, and it took a while to dry on my background. It dries a bit faster when you dilute it with water. I die cut the 3D Arch banner from Mama Elephant, and I also used the same distressings as before to ink blend it. I just used the Stormy Sky and the Faded Jeans. And to the back fold I added some of the Blueprint Sketch. And now I'm heat embossing the sentiment "Snow Much Love" from the Snow Angel stamp set by Mama Elephant in silver. I die cut the MFT Stitch Dynamic Dome frames out of white cardstock, and I die cut them out of a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel out of the center, and then I die cut it 4 more times, and I just layered all of them on top of each other. And I also die cut the Hilly Neighborhood die from Mama Elephant, also out of white cardstock, and I'm just gluing that down onto my background panel using liquid glue. Here I'm using a paper towel because, like I said, the Ink on 3 Liquid Pixie Dust was still a tiny bit sticky. It didn't rub off or anything, it just felt a bit sticky. Now I'm just using a tape runner to adhere the window I die cut with the stitched dome frames. And I'm just adhering that down flat onto my background. And I want to use the layered dome die cuts as like a snow globe frame for dimension. I just played around with the layout of my images, and once I liked it, I'm just gluing them down with liquid glue. I also added 2 of the clouds to the sky. I did color a few more, but those just didn't fit. Here goes my little pile of snowballs. Just gluing down the clouds. And now I'm just placing my layered die cut frame on top of the entire scene so that it looks like it's framing everything like it would in a snow globe. I'm just putting some acrylic blocks on top to weigh it down so that it adheres nicely because there are a few different heights of cardstock underneath. I'm just folding the banner according to the score lines that the die creates, and I added foam tape or little foam squares and liquid glue to the back, and I'm just adhering that down. For some finishing touches, I'm using lots of the Nouveau Aqua Shimmer pen, just to give my snowman, everything that's basically snow or a cloud, lots of shimmer and sparkle, because the glitter or sparkle in the background apparently wasn't quite enough. Now I'm just using a white gel pen, which is the Jelly Roll 0.8, to add some highlights and a few little details to some of the accessories on my critters. Now I'm using the unicorn stickles to just add even more sparkle to the snowman. And that finishes up my card for today. Here you can see a little bit of the shimmery goodness. I really hope you enjoyed this one. This is the second installment for my Get Cracking on Christmas series. Thank you so much for watching. I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel for more crafty videos. Have a wonderful day. Bye!